say you need someone, though, who every Democrat can get behind. Is that not Bernie Sanders?
I believe we need someone every Democrat can get behind. I'm out there fighting for every Democrat.
That's Elizabeth Warren, who has decided to take her campaign in a negative direction toward Bernie Sanders. And this is something that really developed over the weekend. It's disappointing and disheartening to see this because I thought that Elizabeth Warren was better than this. But apparently she has some advisors on her campaign that are giving her bad advice. And this is an example of it. Now, there was this accusation, it was written in Politico, about how Bernie Sanders had directed members of his campaign to attack Elizabeth Warren, that they had put out some sort of attack script on Slack.
Or at least the campaign had.
Or at least the campaign had, but it was reported as if he directed it, right? And then Elizabeth Warren was asked about it, and she goes with this narrative and then attempts to fundraise off of it. So that's the skeleton version of the story, but let me fill in the blanks. While speaking to reporters, Elizabeth Warren said this about Bernie Sanders: "We cannot nominate someone who takes big chunks of the Democratic coalition for granted. We need someone who will bring our party together." And throughout her statement, she kept making references to Bernie Sanders in 2016. These are accusations by establishment Democrats about how Bernie Sanders was so divisive and so terrible to Hillary Clinton that he really created this wedge among people on the left, voters on the left. And so here's—
even though he worked his butt off to try to get her elected.
Yeah, here's the thing, okay? A primary is when you are running against members of your own party to show voters that you're the best candidate, right?
Better than the others?
Right, that's what it's about. Believe it or not.
But then they won't win.
Right. This is the most ridiculous thing. So what did the script say, okay? Her comments following a town hall came after Politico reported that Sanders' campaign had developed a script. This is how they reported it: that Sanders' campaign had developed a script instructing volunteers to criticize Warren as appealing to highly educated, more affluent people, and say that she was bringing no new bases into the Democratic Party. First of all, if I were to give Politico the benefit of the doubt in their reporting here, in the way that they're characterizing it here, and if Bernie Sanders had indeed directed his campaign to put out this script, I would call that campaigning. It is not a personal attack. It is not any type of below the belt, lowbrow attack. It is simply a statement about the coalition that she has built, the way her coalition differs from his coalition, which is not made up of majority white affluent people, right? He has a much more diverse coalition. Highlighting that while you're campaigning in the primary is called common sense. But even so, Bernie has come out and said, no, this was not something directed by me. It was not directed by my campaign. In fact, he said the following: "We have hundreds of employees. Elizabeth Warren has hundreds of employees, and people sometimes say things they shouldn't. Warren is a friend of mine. No one is going to be attacking Elizabeth."
Which is how he always talks.
He's been abundantly clear in that he doesn't want like this dirty campaign. He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want, but it is important to highlight and emphasize the differences between your campaign, what you stand for, and what the other Democrats running in this primary represent. And so Elizabeth Warren took this and said the following while questioned by a reporter. Take a look.
I was disappointed to hear that Bernie is sending his volunteers out to trash me. Bernie knows me and has known me for a long time. He knows who I am, where I come from, what I have worked on and fought for, and the coalition and grassroots movement we're trying to build. Democrats won't win in 2020. We all saw the impact of the factionalism in 2016, and we can't have a repeat of that.
So she's accusing Bernie Sanders of telling his volunteers to trash me. Okay, he's not doing that. In fact, the very script that was promptly taken down from Slack included this line: "I like Elizabeth Warren. In fact, she's my second choice, but here's my concern about her. it then pivots to the criticisms of Warren, meaning, highlighting the differences between the two coalitions. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know I Like Elizabeth Warren was trashing Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, for one thing, I know that a lot of people are saying like it definitely didn't exist. They never did. I don't find it hard to believe that someone in the campaign came up with that script, because what they're describing, the things they're focusing on about Warren, those are just demographic truths. You can look and see if they're true or not. You can look at the surveys and see who supports her, who doesn't support her.
Is Elizabeth
They do tend to
Warren-
be more affluent. They do tend to be whiter. That's simply true. It's not trashing.
So is she embarrassed by the people who support her in her campaign?
I mean, I
Is
would
it
probably
bad
want a
to
different
highlight
makeup.
that?
Yeah, if I could choose my demographic makeup and my supporters, I'd probably want it to be different. And so I know some people want to deny that there's that anything happened on the Sanders side. No, I think that they put that together and it's perfectly fine. It's a campaign. They should be saying stuff like that. And most of her response, I also think, is, yeah, we're campaigning, we're gonna attack each other. The thing where she talked about 2016, I think that is purposefully playing into completely untrue myths about that election.
And that's unacceptable.
Which goes beyond any campaign.
Unacceptable, right?
Exactly.
When you're using Hillary Clinton's talking points, when you're using establishment Democrat talking points to go after Bernie Sanders because you don't like the fact that some members of his campaign wanted to highlight the differences in who supports which campaign, then you lose me, right? Like you lose me. And I look, I've been critical of Elizabeth Warren when it's appropriate to be critical of her. I did not think that she was, the same as Hillary Clinton. Some people I thought were demonizing her too much. But now, seeing that she's using these tactics, I really think that she should change course and do so immediately, because this is not working out for her. She noticed a significant dip in the polls when she decided to listen to her moronic strategists and move to the center. Don't move to the center. You saw that it hurt you, so own up to that. Don't try to deflect by accusing Bernie Sanders of doing something, unacceptable or too hurtful. You're running in a primary. You're running in a primary. You're better than this. You're better than this. This is so pathetic. Go ahead.
Everyone doesn't get that this is an election. Like all the media coverage is like,
they get
how
it
dare
from the
they?
election.
How
They get it.
dare
They get it when Bernie Sanders is attacked. When he's attacked, it's an election. It's a primary. Poor Bernie
one great
Sanders.
example,
He's the victim, right?
I think one
But
great
when
example of that.
He does like a tiny. I'm gonna keep it real. Bernie Sanders, I think, doesn't go far enough. I think he should emphasize the differences between his campaign and his opponents more aggressively, and I think he should call them out, right? And guess what? They're gonna come after you, Bernie. They're gonna come after his supporters. They're gonna come after him. They're gonna accuse them of everything, racism, sexism, whatever they can pull out of their back pocket to smear him. Who cares? Because what matters at the end of the day are the issues, right? He's been focusing on the issues and he's been staying away from any type of negative campaigning. And unfortunately, his opponents aren't following that same strategy. His opponents will attack him the first second they see that he's rising in the polls, and that's exactly what happened. They saw that the polls came out indicating that he's leading in Iowa and New Hampshire, some of these early states, and they're like, all right, gloves are off, let's go. First they minimized him, belittled him, ignored him, and then once he sees a little rise in the polls, they come after him like this. And the fact that Elizabeth Warren is playing into this nonsense, I think is pathetic, because I think she's right on a lot of issues, right? I think that she's a strong candidate. And rather than focus on that, rather than do a course correction after her strategist led her astray, she has decided to double down on this dumb strategy, and it's not gonna work out for her.
Yeah, any strategy that involves like not just demonizing the candidate, but unnecessarily antagonizing their base is a horrible idea if you aim to someday get those people to support you. That is something that the candidates should focus on. I think it's one of the reasons that Bernie Sanders generally attacks as little as he does. He doesn't want to just set fire to the other candidates' bases. He wants to eventually convert them over to supporting him.
That is what he wants.
The candidate has to focus on it. I think that people in the media that are advocating for one candidate need to do that. Her switching up in that way, like if you're Elizabeth Warren, you need Bernie Sanders supporters to eventually switch over to you if you hope to ever beat Biden. If somehow it's you or Biden, you need Bernie Sanders supporters. And so this is a horrible angle to go in.
Right.
In terms of the not getting that it's an election, I personally think that this story is much less
egregious?
Personally egregious and offensive is the one that we're about to go to. But the media, the way that they've pitched this is the two progressives have taken the gloves off. as if they've both equally changed the way that they're operating. Bernie Sanders, assuming that that's authentic, and I don't personally find it to be all that offensive to assume that it is, that is like the lightest form of just purely factual criticism possible.
And if you can't handle someone stating the obvious about your campaign, which is insanely mild, what are you gonna do if you end up on a debate stage with Donald Trump?
Well, Donald Trump is really polite. He would never say anything underhanded.
Right, no, come on.
He already is and did today, in fact, against her.
Be strong and understand that you're in a primary and that people are gonna highlight the differences between their campaigns and your campaign. And if you can't handle that and you immediately jump to nonsense, which she unfortunately further did today, then you don't have a winning strategy. And it's just really sad to see this. Now, I wanna give you some more components of this story that are important to know about. First off, a Bernie Sanders volunteer apparently hit back against the narrative that we're seeing in the media about this so-called script. And this is what the tweet said. Here's what actually happened. A random user who's only ever posted once before posted that document in the Sanders volunteer Slack group. A moderator promptly removed it and stated that it was not a campaign source. So look, I don't know 100% what the truth is. I'm inclined to just believe this, but at the same time, I think you're right.
It's so not inflammatory that I don't even care, really.
Exactly.
Like it's so mild.
If Bernie Sanders himself put that script together and we have irrefutable evidence indicating that, I still don't care because he didn't do anything offensive. Again, this is a primary, okay? It's a primary. He's running against Elizabeth Warren. Now, if he had come out with personal attacks against her, if he said, look, if Bernie Sanders came out and made fun of the way she was dancing, I'd be super turned off by that, okay? That is the type of stuff I don't want to see from Bernie Sanders. But I
you never will.
And I never will because that's not who he is. But what I do want to see is how he differs from the other candidates. That is the whole point of the primary. And if Elizabeth Warren can't handle it, and if she and her advisors decide that the best strategy is to pivot away from progressive policies and attack Bernie Sanders in a lowbrow way, she's gonna lose.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know if this is me sort of weirdly being baited, but I think he should start to run on that script because think about specifically what he's pointing out. He's pointing out sort of the inverse of the ridiculous lies that have been told about Sanders' base for 3 or 4 years now. That it has been pitched as something that it never was. It has always been more diverse racially and in terms of the breakdown of the genders that are supporting him than had been pitched by the media from the very beginning. He is more diverse in that way than Elizabeth Warren and most of the other candidates too. He does bring in new people to vote in a way that, as it stands right now, she does not appear to, and she's not alone in that, certainly. I think that him focusing on something that is indeed his strength, that has been pitched as his weakness, makes all the sense in the world. If the media is not going to tell the truth, then he does need to get out in front and do it.
Yeah, you know why it makes all the sense in the world? Because we're in a primary, right? We're in a primary, and you're right.
I'm starting to suspect that Bernie wants to win and doesn't want the others to.
It's so weird,
and
right?
I think that's all right.
Listen, when Elizabeth Warren was claiming credit or taking credit for Medicare for all, as if that was her policy, he didn't even hit her back on that, and it was honestly infuriating as someone who's watching this election move forward, because it's like, but you're the one who wrote that legislation. How are you gonna let her take credit for it?
Well,
but
really
Elizabeth Warren, unfortunately, has terrible political instincts, and what I mean by that is she got goaded into releasing nonsense details of how she would pay for it, where she lied and said that it wouldn't be a middle-class tax increase. That was strike one. And then she went off with her transition plan that made it abundantly clear to me, anyone who has like 2 brain cells, that she isn't actually serious about Medicare for all, because if you're gonna try to do it in like a 2-tiered way, like where you start off with a public option and then in your 3rd year, try to transition to Medicare for all.
That's known as the easy year.
It's not gonna, it's not gonna happen. So her political instincts are off. I think that the way that she rolled out those policy proposals, gave you a sense of that. But what she's doing now is far worse, because she has chosen to go at him, hit at him, and do these like smear tactics, as opposed to like taking a step back and looking at the various reasons why she's dipping in the polls, right? Course correction, that's what you do. And instead she's decided to deflect by using this nonsense strategy. I just don't agree with it, and I think it's dumb.
TYT is all about challenging and disrupting the status quo, and so is Aspiration. Aspiration does not invest your money into fossil fuel businesses that harm our planet, such as pipelines and oil drilling. Instead, you'll be able to fight climate change with tools like AIM, the Aspiration Impact Measurement, and Planet Protection. They also don't hit you with outrageous fees for you to access your own money. You can even earn cash back and get free ATM uses up to 5 times a month. Head to aspiration.com/TYT to learn more. For a limited time, get 30 days of free TYT membership when you sign up.